Welcome to Ask HR, the podcast dedicated to being your trusted resource, answering HR questions while covering broader topics and people and culture with expert insights and practical solutions. I'm your host, Yusin Pato Young. Join me each week as we tackle your HR questions to help you navigate the day-to-day with real-world strategies, featuring special guests, sharing our stories, lessons, empowering each other, and learning from one another. Ask HR is proudly sponsored by YP Personnel Management and Consulting, a strategic, tactical, and practical HR solutions consulting firm. We are your resources at work. Let's get started. This week's question is a case of my employee is not getting it versus my manager don't hear me nor listen. This is when both managers and employees don't listen to each other and could truly improve their communication and build understanding to resolve the common workplace tension. We, employees and management, are both the root of misunderstandings. Shocking, I know. Misunderstanding often stems from both sides. It's not just the employee or just the manager. In this episode, we're answering one manager question, one employee question, and how HR can support you both. Our two questions are, first, my employee is just not getting it. So how do I balance empathy with accountability? Our second question, my manager doesn't hear me, nor do they listen. What should I do when I feel like my voice isn't being heard by my manager or my team? In my experience, it's not always a performance problem. More often, it's a communication problem. At least that's where it starts. It often points to deeper issues like miscommunication, unclear expectations, role misalignment, or even the external pressures, our so-called life. Here's an example. An employee who consistently misses deadlines may not just be slacking off, but rather unclear about the priorities of their task. They may be struggling with workload balance or dealing with personal stressors they haven't disclosed. And likewise, if someone appears checked out in meetings, it might not just be a motivation issue. It could be that they don't feel heard, their input is often overlooked, or they lack a sense of purpose in their role. In many of these cases, it's not about a lack of ability, but a lack of alignment. That's why the proactive conversations, open dialogue, and mutual understanding are key to shifting the behavior, changing the narrative, and improving tension and engagement. And before we dive in, this episode of Ask HR is brought to you by YP Personnel Management and Consulting, referred as YPPMC. We are your resources at work. With a collective of 20 years of experience amongst our consultants, YPPMC brings the strategies, the solutions, and the expertise to simplify your HR services. Whether you are a small organization, an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, or a growing business, because when HR works, your business thrives. Learn more at yppmc.com. For our manager question, how do you balance empathy with accountability? When it feels like someone just isn't getting it, pause and remind yourself to just listen. You might learn a thing or two before you have to reply. And before assuming the employee is underperforming, think back to the last one-on-one or department meeting. And if there wasn't a recent one, schedule it. If you think and look back there may have been some signs leading up to the tension. And often, this uncovers issues like the lack of the clarity, or they were feeling overwhelmed. And again, some personal challenges that could now be impacting their performance. Consider this and ask yourself before passing judgment. Question with intention before reacting with emotion. What exactly are you hearing from your employee? It doesn't hurt to repeat it back to them so they can confirm or deny or clarify it. I've personally learned to frame some conversations with curiosity instead of criticism. I find it much more effective. Here's how I ask. What support do you feel you're missing for this task? What I'm truly saying is, I believe in you and I'm here to help you, but we also need to move forward together. So my approach is the empathy, which opens the door, and also the accountability to move forward keeps us on track. And one thing that I love when my leader says is, after we've walked through everything, what is the new commitment from this point? Did you know that according to a Gallup report in 2023, about 32% of employees in the US are actively engaged at work, which highlights a major gap in workplace communication and clarity. But that leaves 68% either disengaged or actively disengaged. I recently learned the difference between the two. So this is a huge opportunity for improvement. 68% is a lot, and it matters. The poor communication is often the root of disengagement. Employees need to feel heard and valued. So, establish regular check-ins, and it won't become a case of my employee is not getting it or my manager don't hear me. And we all need some help. Try using strength assessments like the PI index or DISC. These assessments will help to tailor some of the roles and responsibilities wherever possible. Of course, work with your amazing HR team to collect real-time feedback on the entire team and individual dynamics. I emphasize real-time so it can be addressed immediately, at least in the next meeting or one-on-one. And dear HR professionals, we can help support that staggering 68% gap. Here's how. Break down the data by department or role, then look for the patterns in the disengagement. And this will help you work with your people leaders with next steps, what interventions to best use. The goal is to uncover where misalignments exist and act on the feedback in a transparent way to be able to get the results on boosting engagement and helping employees and people leaders see how their contribution matters. Let's learn more about our sponsor, YP Personnel Management and Consulting. At YPPMC, we're not just about advice. Whether you need strategic HR planning, tactical execution, or practical day-to-day support, we've got you covered. Elevate your business with client-focused, responsive, ethical, and result-driven HR solutions. Visit yppmc.com and learn how we can be of help. We are your resources at work. Now let's shift to the employee perspective, because communication is a two-way street, and feeling unheard can be just as frustrating as not being understood. Our employee question: my manager can be dismissive. What should I do when I feel like my voice isn't being heard by my manager or my team? So when I felt dismissed or ignored, I try not to let the frustration drive the conversation. Instead, I pause, and most of the time, I talk it out with either my trusted mentor, my husband, or family member to calm myself. And of course, lots of prayer, because nothing is worse than emotionally reacting in the moment. You want to make sure your perspective is clear. So start with this. Can we revisit our last discussion? And this matters too. Choosing the right time to check your tone and re-engage respectfully. And if things don't improve, seek support through HR, because being heard is not a luxury. It's essential to doing your best work. And one more thing, for those of us with good people leaders, consider them too. Acknowledge their workload or stress level. This often softens the conversation and it opens the door to a mutual understanding. Across the industry, this is not an uncommon work tension, right? The manager and the employee. And according to a Harvard Business Review, teams that adopt structured communication experience fewer conflicts and stronger alignment. One great example is the SBIN model. It's situation, behavior, unpack, next steps. And this helps to frame feedback in a constructive, non-confrontational way. Now, to bring it all together, let's pause for a quick recap and look at some of the takeaways. Remember, it's not about you're not getting it or you're not listening to me. It's about leading with questions, not jumping to conclusions. Improving communication can help resolve a lot of and many workplace issues and alleviate frequent conflicts. We can use active listening techniques such as paraphrasing responses, asking open-ended questions, observing the nonverbal cues. It's opening the door, right? Some employees just need an invitation. There is a study by the Society of Human Resources Management, SHRM, shows that teams with managers who practice regular feedback-based conversation are 20% more productive and report higher morale. This is where we HR professionals can support even greater. Leading with empathy and strategy. Misunderstandings in the workplace are rarely one-sided. Managers and employees alike must be equipped with the right tools to foster clear and respectful communication so that the accountability is shared with both the manager and the employee. And before we wrapped up our episode, thank you to our sponsor, YP Personnel Management and Consulting. YPPMC goes beyond the traditional HR consulting by offering a comprehensive suite of HR services and compliance, HR technology, leadership and development, and more. These services collectively support your HR operations. Visit yppmc.com and book your free consultation today. We are your resources at work. So, let's recap. Active listening is essential for uncovering the root cause of disengagement. Managers, you should listen with attention. Again, observe the nonverbal cues to go beyond surface level assumptions. Assertive communication is another good one. Empowers employee to express concerns respectfully while focusing on solution and not just the frustration. This will create and open a more collaborative environment where both voices are heard. And dear HR professional, We can even more support this by delivering training on communication skills. Emotional intelligence is a great one, and just offering to manage up and down effectively. We can implement routine check-ins and feedback with our people leaders to loop and catch the issues early before they escalate. By doing this, we're establishing the culture of feedback and also psychological safety that would allow all voices to be heard, right? We're equipping our people leaders with the ongoing education, and we're also showing and guiding our employees and encourage them to share goals and align their expectations between their teams and their leadership. All in all, forward-thinking companies are embedding communication frameworks into leadership training. And these methods promote direct, caring conversation that drives clarity and accountability. And this will definitely improve relationship morale, most likely if done right. Well, do you agree? Have you had a similar experience or a different one between the relationship of you and management? Let's keep the conversation going, because better communication means better work, better teams, and better outcomes for everyone. And that wraps up this week's Ask HR. Thank you for tuning in. Share your thoughts with us. Or if you have an HR question, send your HR questions to askhr@yppmc.com. Continue to support our show by subscribing, following, and engaging with us.